and welcome to our first episode of Connection Complete, creating change from the inside out. I'm Julia Barker, and I'm here with my co-hosts,
Mary Beth Patricus, Beth Notarius.
Today we are talking about the opioid epidemic. This is Cathy Weir from Families Against Narcotics. Cathy, can you tell us about FAN, the acronym for Families Against Narcotics?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me too. This is an honor. Families Against Narcotics, FAN, has a local chapter. They have many chapters throughout the state of Michigan and soon to have in other states. But in a summary, it's a community-based program for those seeking recovery, for those in recovery, and family members affected by addiction. It's a nonprofit organization as well, all volunteerism.
Okay. The opioid epidemic is a crisis. The government is now spending millions of dollars to help communities throughout the country deal with this. Michigan is among the states with more opioid prescriptions than people. This is a huge issue that we wanted to talk about on our program, and I'm so happy that you could be here today. We all have some questions for Cathy regarding the opioid epidemic, and I'm just going to go ahead and kick it off with more people than prescriptions, as I mentioned. A lot of people are getting prescriptions from families, friends. What's a good way of dealing with this issue?
Well, the public awareness, I think, is growing, which is good, and proper disposal of, let's say, expired medicines or current. Sometimes people will say, I only use 2 of these, but I have this whole bottle, and they put it in their medicine cabinet. Could be your grandparents, your parents, a relative or a friend. So we're encouraging to dispose of that properly. So our Livingston County has the big red barrel. They have them at the state police posts. Anything you take over there, there's no questions asked. It could be cleaning out your own medicine cabinet or your parents'. There are in different counties. Oakland County has Project Medicine Cabinet, where you can take it to local drop-off sites. There are, Macomb County has Operation RX, but they're all basically the same disposal of your medicines properly. There are new products out. Let's say you can't go to that facility, or you can purchase products. There are molecular, technology, molecular absorption technology that will neutralize your prescriptions, and they have different sizes that you can use, but what it does is inactivate the drug, because you don't want to put that in our water system. We don't want to put it in our landfills because it doesn't go away. So you do want to use proper disposal, and there are more and more available. I think even not only with the counties, but the local police stations are having the drop boxes as well. So that's a very, very important thing, knowing where to dispose of properly. You don't want to keep your prescriptions.
Absolutely. We've mentioned a lot, when we talked before the episode, we were mentioning the commercials that we've seen, people going into their family members' medicine cabinets, and that's how they're accessing these prescriptions that they're abusing. I know Mary Beth wanted to ask about why not just throw them away, and again, just to reiterate, the water supply will be contaminated by pills that are disposed of improperly, so we definitely do not want to do that. Can our viewers find information of where to dispose of prescriptions on your website?
On our website, they probably more local.
Okay.
So you would go to, let's say, your local police or sheriff or your county. The DEA, I know, Drug Enforcement Agency, has actual take-back days a couple times a year, and then they post what stations. Those stations may not have them all year, but they're local. You punch in your zip code.
Okay.
Although I think the advertisement, the Big Red Barrel in Livingston County, they're really prominent in your community, but there should be a list. I don't know how updated it is to find it.
Okay.
So, could I jump in?
Yeah.
Cathy, what was the driving force for you to start the Livingston, Oakland, Southwest Oakland chapter of Families Against Narcotics?
Well, when my son was an addict, and when you have a person that you love who is in addiction and trying to get all the resources you can, I did not know enough myself, which is kind of embarrassing, the fact that as far as the narcotics, if the doctor prescribes something, it must be okay. But what you don't realize until later when you're in the midst of it, that this is a problem. But there's not a lot of discussion about it. So you have to do a lot of research. And at the time, my son died in January 2014. I was searching for something for families. You have to connect with someone else. The addict, you can have help for them with an addiction specialist and doctors or rehabilitation. We have Brighton Center for Recovery. We have like awesome facilities. But as far as a community, information, learning, resources, there's not really a go-to place. So Googling that information, I came across Families Against Narcotics, and it just made so much sense to me that this is a supportive, people are talking about it. It's not shameful. There's the stigma attached to addiction and mental health in our society is amazing.
That
still exists.
Commitment to remove the stigma so that there is an open conversation is so critical to what my understanding is FAN is providing for the community is a place to have a discussion, to build a community, and have emotional support for each other.
Yes.
Very powerful, Cathy.
And to have that stigma, this is something as a society we need to have. It's not just one family or one person. It affects community. With that understanding, there is hope too. I mean, I never, ever, ever lose that. I lost my son. Was it my lack of information? Maybe I would have known something sooner, perhaps. But there are other families out there that could use this information. And our forums, our monthly forums, are a supportive environment that you can share your stories. It's not anonymous. Many
you also
people
provide education, speakers that come in.
We try each month to have a different topic. And
may I ask a question about that? So when you do that, I think a big part too is, because we were talking before the actual show here, that people just, the doctor prescribes something and they go and fill it, but they never use it. So really, it's about us empowering ourselves to say no. Doctors are there, we love them, they help us, but we know ourselves better than they do. And so to say, no, I don't want to do that. So with FAN, do they say, here are some other resources in lieu of the opiates, having a tough time with that word, opiates, here's some alternatives. Do they have resources like that? Do you have speakers that come in and speak about that?
that's a good point. Yes, and actually one of our forums there was an acupuncturist, very specific to recovery. She was a person in recovery as well, and she had the forum, which whoever wanted to do it, she did. It was auricular, which is ears. Very specific points, and at one time, I know Brighton Center for Recovery used it as part of their program, with therapy, with their therapist and psychologist. So they use that because it is a physical, relaxing, meditative alternative too. I know some people use massage therapy. There are I know they're developing and learning, but there has to be alternatives for narcotics because there are people that need pain management, whether it's for surgery, car accidents, cancer, and you don't want addictive. So there are alternatives. Is it the 100% solution? maybe a combination, but that's what everyone's trying to learn. There has to be something else other than narcotics. Like you said, the doctors are helping and they know so much, but I think they are also learning.
You had an interesting piece of information about how long you can take an opiate before you have an addiction.
In addition, there will be a physical change. If you took, even as prescribed, 7 days. So if you have
7
this, even not misuse, not abuse, I mean, there are differences too, but because of tolerances. So it's not that people don't need something, but it has to be very limited.
But that's not addicted. 7 days is
kind of a physical change in your body.
So that if you were to stop taking as prescribed on day 8, you're saying there is a physical thing going on in your body at that point?
If you said, you know what, this is not for me anymore, and just your body will know that. So that's why it's so important that you have to be aware too.
So you'll have withdrawals.
Yes,
it's mild because you're not on it for so long, maybe.
And you may even feel like I just don't feel good. I feel sick. Are you going to relate it to? Okay, I just stopped that. Not so sure. Mm-hmm. And then let's say you're not feeling good, but then okay, so now you're going to take another one. Now you feel okay again. So you are not even aware that that's even happening. Addiction eventually will turn into a disease as well, and then that's
So
the
how
other
long
story.
does it take to develop an addiction typically?
Everybody's different. So that's the brain part. The younger you are, probably the quicker. I'm not a doctor, but the part of your brain that's developing and all of the signals and the chemistry of it is going to be much sooner than as if it was an adult, if you were an adult. The warning, I think, with the opiates and the prescribing is question the doctors too. Is this addictive? It's really, maybe that should be on our prescriptions that we get. What is the side effects? Is it really constipation? That's probably not the biggest one. It's probably the addictiveness. I think they call it the big black box, or maybe it should be in red letters before when you come home with your warnings and everything that this prescription is. Maybe put addiction up there as the number one with a little description. If you continue to take this is the risk. But physically, as a human being, if we all, depending on what it is, that's why we need to ask our doctors, is there something else that we could take? Is there something? I was at a rally, Unite to Face Addiction, Michigan and Lansing last year, and there was a surgical company, pharmaceutical company that was making, how you have local anesthetic for your teeth?
Yes.
Let's say you had a major surgery and you knew you were in recovery, you don't want opiates, you don't want to take pain narcotics. They can do a local anesthesia for the local area. Let's say you're having your appendix out. It numbs that for like 3 days. You don't even have to have the narcotic. So it's a very new product, and I said, oh my gosh, how come everybody doesn't know about it? Because it's so new, and you have to ask for it. Yeah. So there's that alternative again.
That education again and awareness,
yes,
and get the conversations going.
So there are people that are working on alternatives, because if you have to have surgery and you can't take a narcotic, but you really do need anesthesia, but there are different, and pain help for a few days. They're beginning to work on. I love it, that people are working on that too, because they're, I'm not saying that the need isn't there. I don't want to say nobody can take pain medicine, but you have to be so careful with doing that. It's like that caution, very caution.
And I'm really looking forward to having another guest to talk about this topic, because I feel we all believe that it's something that really deserves 2, 4, 6 episodes. It's affecting, I think, 1 in 3 families was the last statistic that I saw. I mean, especially here in Michigan, again, we're one of the, I think, 15th for overdose deaths. it's really hitting us hard. So I want to talk about, again, like alternative methods. We're looking forward to having someone else on to talk about alternative pain management. And again, just asking your doctor questions, how important this is. And when you go to maybe a chiro or a massage therapist or a physical therapist, they are going to be trying everything to have you, your pain managed, and hopefully not end in surgical procedures, because a lot of times that is something where you can't really get around, not getting your prescription filled. So we are really looking forward to having that guest on in another episode. But it's definitely important, and yes, some people will need them, but again, just to stress, talk to your doctor, just ask for any alternate methods that they have in mind besides prescriptions. It's just huge. We really have to be our own advocates, and part of our being here today is just to inform our viewers and be the connection between the information and those of you looking to get it. So we'll be right back. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Cathy Weir more about what she has to teach us and what we can learn from Families Against Narcotics. Welcome back. We are here at the Greater Brighton Area Chamber of Commerce. We're located at 218 East Grand River in Brighton, Michigan.
So Cathy, my children were in sports growing up, my daughter still is, and you see injuries in amateur athletes. And with regards to pain management, when they have these injuries, can you enlighten us a little bit on that?
I'm glad you brought that up. Very specifically, there are videos addressing those issues. I would love every athletic director, every coach, anybody involved in sports, parents, to really be aware. A lot of the sports injuries, because so many, like you had mentioned earlier, so many kids are involved. And there was a specific video on the Families Against Narcotics website that addresses that. Let's say your daughter has this broken arm or sprained arm, and she's uncomfortable, and the parents are in this hospital room with the doctor, and he said, give her a little Tylenol, maybe aspirin, and have her take it easy. And the parent is saying, oh no, she's uncomfortable, isn't there anything else you can give her? And you have to watch the video, because I'm not going to tell you what he does, but it is very, very important that you be very your advocate for your child, and to not ask for more than what they need, because children are very resilient. And years ago, if you had a sprained arm or broken arm, you basically took it easy for a few days. You didn't say, okay, well, if we give this pain medicine, no pain, they can play the next day. That's what's happening a lot, and we have to be very careful what we allow our children to. And if you're an advocate for a parent as well, an elderly parent you may be helping with, go to the doctors with them and ask those questions. And I think the doctors would be, more than happy to give alternatives. I really do. I think that they're in our community as well, and I know their issues are, their concerns are some of our issues too. Sure, thanks.
Yeah, and again, just to bring this full circle, you know, we are about creating change from the inside out, and you know, talking about sports injuries. You know, in my family, it was a car accident. These everyday occurrences are the simple ways that our friends and families are becoming addicted to painkillers. And again, to get back to stigma, I guess ended on stigma, we need to be talking about how disease and plays into this addiction, and how there's, you know, actual chemical changes that are happening in the brain, and how this isn't just about people making bad decisions. And if you could just talk a little bit more about that, and I do want to touch on mental health and how that plays a part, depression plays a part in this addiction disease as well.
And it is a disease that is scientifically proven. It is not a moral, it is not a character issue or flaws. That is the misconception, which part of the stigma comes from, that everyone's saying, well, you know, you chose that, but nobody chooses addiction. Nobody chooses to have a disease. It does happen. There is a chemical change that occurs in the brain. Again, the younger, the quicker, and that's why all of the caution. Perhaps some people are trying to self-medicate, and perhaps even a person will say, oh, well, try this. I have this prescription. You can try mine. That is not where you need prescriptions. You do not need it from your family or friends' medicine cabinets. And if you should never share, sometimes people self-medicate. Are there co-occurring disorders? Mental health is not talked about either. Some people have anxiety, and it's not even labeled. With my son, I think he had it. Knowing what I know now, he may have had anxiety, which led to abuse of something, even though it may have been prescribed in the beginning, but for him, that led to misuse and abuse, which will lead you to this life, you know, for some, a life of recovery. And so if you have the information first, seek a therapist. I really wasn't aware of the mental health issue either, and in my case, I believe it was both. Yeah. And people don't want to talk about either. So I don't think our family was unique. There's so many, like you mentioned earlier. If we all truly talk, someone you know is affected, because there are no boundaries. There knows no demographics. There's no like certain areas. It's in our society.
It's not prejudice.
It is not at all. No. And from the most caring, loving parents, there are children. Maybe if they had information, maybe they could help either a friend or even their own parents. But there is information. There are resources. If there is anything that you need, we would be happy to connect with, let's say, another person you even want to talk with. Maybe you don't want to go to a meeting, but there are other ways of help too. I know a lot of people use 12-step programs. It is something that is hopeful for many people, but the more we know, the better decisions we can make, more information. The information is always good.
And can you give our viewers those resources? How are they going to find you online? Do you have Facebook? How do you connect with people?
The best information, right, with a lot of information in one place that is very concise information, videos, contact information, resources, education pieces, is the FamiliesAgainstNarcotics.org website. That will take you to, let's say, vicinity of chapters. I know there's one in Lansing, Southwest Michigan, our chapter local, and they're popping up all over. There's one in Canton. So the need is there, yeah. And I think that's why people want to connect that, and they will have everybody's contact information and locations. And if you need to contact us, it's on the website.
Cathy Weir, thank you so much for coming today. Ladies, did you have any last minute questions you wanted to ask Cathy?
No,
All right.
thank you for joining us today.
Thank you,
Really
Cathy.
appreciate
Thanks for
that.
having me.
Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, well, there you have it. This was our first episode of Connection Complete, creating change from the inside out. I'm your host, Julia Barker. With me, I have
Mary Beth Patricus, Bump Up Air Productions.
Beth Notarius Inc., Chief Entrepreneur.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.